Welcome to Everyday Enlightenment. I'm your host, Patty Teal. I'm coming to you today from Sedona Mago Retreat, a spiritual retreat center located on 163 gorgeous acres in the high desert. My guest today is Julia Cameron. Julia has been an active artist for over 4 decades. She is the author of more than 40 books, including books such as The Artist's Way and Walking in This World and Finding Water. Also a novelist, playwright, songwriter, and poet, she has multiple credits in film and television. 2017 marks the 25th anniversary of The Artist's Way, with over 4 million copies sold. And we're so happy because Julia will be coming back to Sedona Mago Retreat to lead a weekend workshop called It's Never Too Late to Begin Again, an Artist's Way workshop with, again, Julia Cameron, and that will be this autumn, September 22nd to the 24th. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you again. I absolutely cannot believe how fast life goes by and that it's the 25th anniversary of The Artist's Way.
Right. It seems miraculous to me.
I know. To me, too. Did you ever dream that this book would become the classic that it has become?
I thought I was writing it for 10 people.
For 10 people? Oh, my.
For my dear friends who were blocked. And then I was shocked, surprised, and delighted when I found it spoke to a much broader audience.
Oh, it sure did. And it seems that it's as timely today as ever.
Yes, I think so. I think we have the same feelings around creativity that we had 25 years ago, which is that we have a mythology. A few people are creative. And what I say is, no, we all are.
I know. Isn't that the truth? And I have met people who think they're not creative. But as you said, everybody is creative, but it may just show itself in different ways. So now your new focus, It's Never Too Late to Begin Again, which I looked on Amazon. It's just getting rave reviews. What's the new focus here?
Well, I found that I wanted to write to an audience that was older than my initial audience. I often run into people when I teach who say, Julia, I've been doing morning pages for 25 years now. And I thought I'd like to coax them to go deeper into the toolkit. So I wrote a book aimed at people who are 55 and up.
One of the things that I read about in preparation for our interview is that you encourage people to think through their past dreams. Can you go into that description a little bit more?
Well, I think that there are 4 basic tools that I apply, and they are morning pages, which are 3 pages of morning writing, walking, which is get out and get into your body and get into your body of work, artist dates, which are do something festive by yourself once a week. And then the tool you're talking about is a tool I call the Memoir. And I think that very often when you say to people you're going to write a memoir, they go, oh my God, that's overwhelming. So what we did was break it down into tiny little bites so that it's broken into 12 segments. And what I find is that people may start off saying, my life is boring, but then as they begin to do the work with the memoir, they say, oh, my life is interesting.
Oh, now that's interesting.
That I cared about that.
Oh, so you kind of reignite things for people, or help them to do it for themselves, I guess.
Yes, I think what we're doing is reigniting a sense of wonder.
So, I don't know if this is one of your tools. Does it help when people think back on what maybe made them happy when they were very young?
Yes, it does help for people to look back on what made them happy. And I think that what I do is I say, try and remember what lit your fire? And people say, oh, when I was 12, I had a Brownie camera, and I loved taking photos. And now I'm 67, and maybe I would like taking photos again.
Oh, I love that.
I think that when you write the memoir, you get lots of cues and clues about what your passions are.
Oh, that makes total sense. And another thing I found when I was researching this is that you help people to explore the path that they didn't take.
Well, I think that when people go back in the memoir, they will find that there were some things that they pursued, and then there were other things that they told themselves, oh, don't do that. That's too hard. And I say, no, it's not too hard. I'd like you to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the memoir becomes an invitation, if you want.
Yeah. So, Julia, it seems to me that we have a bit of ageism in our society, but you sound like you are breaking those barriers.
Well, I think we do have ageism in our society, and I think I'm guilty of it myself. I just turned 69, and I found myself saying, 69?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm almost 70. And I think that people have sort of an age point after which they say, I'm too old. And what I say is, no, you're not. Give it a try.
Yeah, I love that. And just as the title of your book, and this is, it's never too late to begin again. That is so very true and so encouraging.
I think that people need to realize that when they are creating in their activity, that they are in fact ageless.
Ageless. There's a big correlation between creativity and spirituality, isn't there?
Well, I think that creativity and spirituality boil down to being the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you work on your creativity, you are increasing your spirituality. And when you work on your spirituality, you are increasing your creativity. So the two go hand in glove.
And these tools, these timeless tools, again, the morning pages, the walking, and the artist dates, and now the memoir, they just help to spark that creativity, don't they?
Yes, I hope so. I think they do.
I think with all the popularity of your methods, I think you've pretty much proven that that is true.
Well, I tell you, I got two $100 bills, crisp $100 bills, and a note that said, Julia, thank you for your work.
Oh, so was that from someone who had read your book?
That was from somebody who had read the book and worked the tools
Mm-hmm.
and had experienced a change and wanted to thank me for the change.
Mm-hmm. So the 25th anniversary, I'm so honored to talk to you. I actually remember back 25 years ago getting your book and working those tools. Can some people may be new to your work? Probably not many, but just in case there are some listeners, could you go through those 4 basic tools and describe them in more detail?
Yes. The tool that I am known for and that I believe is the bedrock tool of a creative recovery is something called morning pages. And morning pages are 3 pages of longhand morning writing about absolutely anything. So you might say, I forgot to buy kitty litter. I didn't call my sister back. The car has a funny knock in it. You go from topic to topic to topic to topic. And as you do, you prioritize your day, you synchronize your day, you clarify and provoke and comfort yourself. Morning pages are just an extremely powerful tool. So that's something you get up and do every day. And it's something that I find people take to. You know, when I say to them, I have a tool and it's hard, they say, we'll try it.
Oh, isn't that funny?
You know, and I think this is because we believe in the work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a difficult sounding tool, people say, let me do it.
Oh, that's funny. And so it doesn't matter how long it takes, but your advice is fill 3 pages.
Fill 3 pages. I'd say usually it takes 20 to 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I say get up an hour early and get yourself to the page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first tool. That's Morning Pages. And I love that tool and I use it. The second tool is a tool which is more difficult for people, and that's Assigned Fun, Artist Date. And it's got 2 parts to it. One part is artist, one part is date. And so what you're doing is you're sort of wooing yourself. I find it when I teach, if I assign artist dates, only about half of the people will try it because they don't see the reality that we have an expression, the play of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a literal expression. You know, if we play, we will have ideas. So I have to coax people into taking the artist date.
Wow, they just don't want to make time for themselves? Or it just seems too playful?
It's too playful.
Mm-hmm.
It's too frivolous.
Oh, you're right.
They understand being serious about working on their creativity, but they don't understand being playful working on your creativity.
I understand. Mm-hmm.
So the third tool is really simple. It's go for a walk. And usually when I teach, I say go for 2 walks a week, 20 minutes apiece. And just walk out and let yourself mull a little bit. Let yourself have intuitions and hunches. And then when you come back in, don't write about it. It's just for sheer enjoyment, not as a tool that they have to work at.
How did you get so wise? And you must have done all this at a very young age, too. How did it all come about?
I did do it at a very young age. I started doing Artist Way tools when I was 29.
Mm-hmm.
And I began trying to find a path to greater creativity. And what I found was that if I worked with these tools, doors opened for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started teaching other people to try it, and doors opened for them. So the fourth tool is the Memoir. And the Memoir we've talked about is 12 segments, a little bit at a time, coaxing them into doing a review of their life.
Is this a chronological review, Julia?
Well, you start with, I was born on a snowy winter day. My mother tells me it was beautiful. And then you go on from there.
That must be very insightful for people to go back and, as you said, remember the things that they have let go, that the path not taken, and try to bring it back again.
And the thing is that people will find that they have many interests, delights, and joys that they haven't pursued. And when they do the Memoir, they begin to think, oh, maybe I could try it. So the Memoir is a coaxing tool.
So in addition to helping people to be creative, this whole process seems that it's also helping people to be joyful.
Well, I think that it is. I was at lunch yesterday, and a woman came up to me and said, Julia, I took a workshop from you 15 years ago, and it's made all the difference. And here's my card, and this is what I do now. I'm a creativity coach, so I lead others on the path.
That must make you feel really good.
Well, it does. And people will come up to me and say, Julia, I used your tools, and I published a book.
Wow.
Or I used your tools, and now I have a jewelry designing business. Or I used your tools, and I just had my first one-woman show.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, as I read your little introduction at the beginning, you have done so many things. You know, you're a writer, a playwright, a songwriter, a poet. You have credits in film and television, so many different directions you've gone. But these tools work no matter where you're directing your creativity. Is that correct?
I'd say that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, people will say to me, Julia, you're so productive. How do you do it? And I say, well, when you teach creative unblocking, you do become unblocked. I refer to myself as the floor sample of my own toolkit.
Well, that's good. It would be not so good if you weren't such a good floor sample. That's really interesting. I wrote a book years ago, Julia, and I didn't feel I was being very creative. It was a nonfiction and had a lot of factual things that I was writing about. And then when it came time to write what was usually so easy for me, the fanciful part, the visualizations and just kind of just letting myself go, I had a lot of trouble making the switch. Does that make any sense to you?
I think if you do morning pages, it teaches you to drop down the well and to write freely. And it teaches you to miniaturize your censor so that when your censor says things like, you can't make this switch, Patty, you say to your censor, yes, I can, and I will, and then I have.
Right. No negative talk coming in there. So you kind of don't try to stop yourself, but just talk back to yourself and say, I can do this.
Yes.
So I'm so thrilled. I believe this is the third time that you're going to be coming back to Sedona Mago Retreat to lead a weekend workshop. And can you run through what it will be like for people who may be listening and are intrigued to come to this workshop?
First of all, it's experiential. So I give you a tool and you fill in the blank, and then you get into a little cluster of 3 and you share what you discovered. So what happens is that people start out a little bit stiff, and then as they work with the tools, and the tools may be something very simple, like list 25 things you're proud of. List 25 things that make you happy. List 25 things that you love. So the tools are very simple seeming, but as people work with them, they begin to loosen up. And I find that at the beginning, I can say, okay, everyone listen, please. And people will reluctantly listen. And then at the end, I say, everyone, please listen. And they're too busy laughing.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So how do you spend your days these days, Julia? Are you wrapped up in the business? Are you finding time to be creative and create new projects yourself?
I always create new projects. And right now I'm writing a book about writing.
Oh.
And I have not told my publisher that I'm doing it. I'm just
I hope they don't hear this interview.
Right. Just doing it on spec. Just because it's been 20 years since I wrote a book called The Right to Write, and that was a book on writing, and now it's 20 years later, and I thought, I bet I have more to say about writing, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow. And we heard that here.
My days start off with morning pages, and then I go to oatmeal. And after oatmeal, I take my dog for a walk. And after I take my dog for a walk, I dictate my pages of the day to my friend Emma Lively. Emma wrote, It's Never Too Late to Begin Again with Me. A wonderful believing mirror.
Oh, yes. So you have a partner on some of these things. That's really great.
Yes. I've written 2 books with Mark Bryan. I've written 4 books with Emma. I find that sometimes writing with a partner is just so enjoyable that I find myself wanting to do it.
I love The Right to Write. That's really interesting. I know one of my kids are adults now, he writes amazing things because they're written like no one else would ever say, but he says things like no one else would ever say things. But I remember his 5th grade teacher saying, he just could not spell, and his punctuation is not good. But I imagine we can all have editors, and it's more important probably to get our thoughts out.
Yes. one of the things I find when I teach is I say, how many of you have an issue with perfectionism? And virtually every single hand in the room goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, Julia, I'm not a real writer, I can't spell.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not a real writer, I don't have good grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say to them is, we have spell check.
Right.
We
Thank
have
goodness.
dictionaries.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little teeny book called The Elements of Style. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing.
Right. And the perfectionism, probably some of your tools, especially the morning pages, since you're used to just kind of writing in a free flow style and not judging it, probably helps with that.
Yes, I think that morning pages dismantle perfectionism.
Dismantles it completely. That's great. Well, Julia, I am so looking forward to you being in Sedona again at Sedona Mago Retreat. And again, I want to remind the listeners that it's September 22nd through the 24th. And you can learn more by going to the SedonaMagoRetreat.org website. And Julia's living proof that it's never too late to begin again. I think you're going to have more projects, more books, more many things coming up.
Well, thank you. Your voice to God's ear.
Okay, thank you, Julia. It was such a pleasure to talk to you again.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.